How many people have heard of Samsung? Okay, pretty much all of you. And probably Samsung came out of nowhere 30 years ago, and now is one of the largest IT company. It's ranked as number 20 in Global 2000 by Forbes magazine, and it's ranked as number 12 in the powerful brand in the world. So starting in 1969, which is a little over 40 years, it has grown so much larger in size and profit. Now it holds many of the number one brands in the world, including mobile phones, TVs, and if you can imagine any consumer products, probably Samsung makes one. Because what they've done is, over the last 30 years, they have challenged every aspect of consumer products. But how many people know that actually they have not started as a consumer electronics company, but rather mostly known as a semiconductor? They make chips, right? So they make the most money making chips. And that's been embedded in our minds over the last many years. And Samsung has made tons of money in a way because of the foresight back in 20 years ago when Chairman Lee decided to invest in computer chips rather than products. So by then, there's no concept of design. It's more about business, right? However, nowadays, Samsung makes all types of products, including TV, notebooks, smart TV, more phones, video camera, digital cameras, washer and dryers, tablets, printers. Imagine every possible products at home, and pretty much Samsung make it. If they don't have one, if you let me know, they're probably making it in a couple of months, and it's in the market. It'll be in the market. It is that power of Samsung, their vast ability to invest and produce. But it wasn't like that back in 1980s, which is only 30 years ago. When I was shopping for a product in US, I went to the Nobody Beats the Weeds, which is a very good company. It's a shop. Only drawback is that there are a lot of salespersons that they offer haggling. So once you step into the store, then a couple of salesmen will approach you to sell you something. So I heard that there's a Korean products in the market called VCR. So I went to the store, and they approached me. So I asked, where's the Korean VCR machine? And the salesperson was kind of disappointed. And he pointed to the corner of the shop. So I looked at, and it was on the floor. Actually, there were Samsung VCRs. It had a huge sign saying 50% off. So it was on sale. So I knew that salesperson was not happy because he wouldn't get much commission out of it because it was some cheap product. So I was kind of sad that it's on the floor, but I was happy to get the product in a very low price. I brought it home, and probably many of you are aware of it, that my VCR was blinking 12:00 for several days because I didn't know how to set, and it was very complicated. And also, once I unplugged and replugged it, it reset to the 12 o'clock. And that's like national phenomenon. Every household has a VCR with blinking 12 o'clock. It lasted only a couple of days, and then something I didn't expect it happen. This is my Samsung VCR after about a week. It's brand new. So I had to return the product to the store. It's a sad story in a way because I expected a good product from Samsung, knowing that Samsung makes good products by then. Another similar case was there, like Hyundai, but let me go back. Why some of the products were made poorly back then? I think Samsung has followed pretty much the path of the human needs, like defined by Maslow. Abraham Maslow has defined that there's a human hierarchy of needs: physiological, safety, love, self-esteem, and self-actualization, which is kind of steps that every human takes in sequence of the needs. There's a similar model defined by designer saying that the physiological needs is functionality, safety needs is reliability, love is usability, self-esteem is proficiency, and self-actualization is creativity. So if you're designing a product, you need to make it to fulfill the needs of human needs. Just like human needs, you need to make products that need to fulfill to satisfy human needs. Samsung has followed pretty much the same path of this hierarchy, because in any products, any design in previous Japanese, European, American companies, they have followed the same steps, like manufacturing that makes functional and reliable, which is phase one. And then they improve, they add more features, they make it more usable, increasing usability. So that's phase two. And then eventually, they make it very unique, differentiated, and creative products. So Samsung was not that different, because Samsung, as you know, is well known as a fast follower. What they are good at is following very fast. So they entered the market only towards the late 60s, but they have moved very fast. So let's talk about how Samsung design paradigm has developed over the time. Let me just discuss more recent development. Before this, there wasn't even a concept of design at Samsung. Why? Because there were only 30 designers in 1980. Can you imagine? Do you know how many designers are working for Samsung Electronics nowadays? Well over 1,000. From 30 designers to well over 1,000, and they're expecting to have about 2,000 in a couple of years. It has increased that many in terms of number, but that was not until late 80s and beginning of 90s how design was valued. Before that, as you can see, functionality and reliability is more about actually style, but it was about packaging, decorating outside. So when I say style, they actually have a concept. They actually understand what design is, and styling is actually a concept of design. But there's as late as until 2005. So it's quite recent, rather than looking at Samsung making products such a long time, 20, 30 years ago. Design concept was only like 10, 15 years ago. Second phase, features and usability, is the period between 2006 and 2010. It's only 4 years, and they have defined it as experience. They say experience because style, which is also a concept of making a product, having a semantics, form language, which offers certain solutions to consumers' needs. However, if they start to add features and making it usable products, then you got to have understanding of how people experience products. So they call it experience. So it's still going on that there's a styling, there's a creating experience for Samsung products, but they're also looking ahead and imagining what will be the future of Samsung design paradigm. This is the most recent. Since 2011, they are trying to create unique and creative products. And their keyword is value. I added creative value because any value that is not creative, it's not really a value of a design, but rather common terms like in business. Value is a very old concept, creating a value, differentiation. That's been there for a long time. But why is it being mentioned again? And again, it's being said as creative value because Chairman Lee has emphasized design being the future of Samsung. That is an incredible statement because before that, everything is about business. It's about creating margin, profits. It's running and managing marketing, and especially engineering in the past. So, a person like Chairman Lee saying design being the future, it sets kind of tone for all the CEOs, divisions, 88,000 people working for Samsung over many countries. Samsung as a group employs 370,000 people in 88 countries. It's a huge company. Within that, electronics is kind of small, but provide more than 25% of the profit. So you gotta have a very creative people, creative, talented, hardworking people at Samsung Electronics to support and create that much of value. So in the future, design has to create value. Let's look at the old paradigm and how paradigm shift has changed from the old to new. In the past, design is intuitive, very instinctive, and creating based on visual thinking. So it's like thinking with your right brain and very emotional. While the design management is very logical and analytical, offering just like any other job management. You allocate people, allocate time, you set project schedule, and you do it. And then they think that you create design. But that is a very old paradigm. The new paradigm is something that has to be valuable and creative, offering solutions. So how do you do that? In a design sense, the new paradigm is analytic creative, meaning you have to understand in logical sense, very analytically, doing a lot of research and then providing creative solutions, rather than just following your heart and gut. There's a lot of research going on. So in today's designer, like these examples, like Bordeaux TV and Galaxy S4, which is very much an analytic process. It's not just emotional and styling, but it's more about actually looking at other products. Where I hate to say that the Galaxy is looking after Apple's products and see how successful it is. So Samsung had to create their own analytical creative to make competition against Apple. So they had to dissect, deconstruct, analyze, think about it, and reconstruct how Samsung will make a smartphone which will be Samsung's own rather than Apple's. So it is not just an instinctive process, but rather very analytical process which makes creative solutions. Management of design has changed from old paradigm. It's not just managing time and the number of designers, but more of a managing skills goes into how to creatively making sense of what you are designing. So even in design process, like this Galaxy Tab, which is 8-inch screen, which came out before Apple's, which became huge success because of portability, but large enough screen. To manage this kind of new product development, which is not existing in the past, you might say, well, what's the Samsung's newest products, which is really different? Just wait, I'll show you many examples. Samsung is not really following the others anymore because there's no possibility. Samsung has to have their own vision, and they are shifting their design paradigms from old to the new. To put it in a process of product development, there are probably two steps. One is creating based on your desire, which is like seed market. So they're totally new, which is more of advanced design. But typically we follow understanding consumers' needs, and then we create solutions. So if you look at typical process of understanding the market, consumer behaviors, and the needs, and then you do create this kind of products, which is a slide phone for Samsung. This phone was a very huge success, and it's all because of the keyboard design layout. It's called 천지인, which means heaven, earth, and human being, people, which is totally different types of input system, just like QWERTY keyboard. So I can use two thumbs with my two hands, and I can type faster than QWERTY 10 fingers in Korean words. Unfortunately, it's not for English. However, this kind of, not invented in Samsung, but invented in somewhere else, but they acquired it and they put it into the phone. So this kind of very need to input fast, and then you search for solutions. Or this kind of projector, which is Samsung makes, and the most powerful feature of this projector is it almost makes no sound, no noise at all, very quiet. So where does it come from? It's the need of a projector projecting images, but not the noise. So they put every effort to make it quiet. It's a huge success, and also very streamlined to make it look unique and different. Galaxy S4, you might say that it's very similar to other Apple smartphones. However, it is also following the needs of the consumers. They put every effort to understand what they have to put into this phone. And just mentioned Galaxy Tab, 8-inch size, which is a new product, and it was the first in the market in the world. Based on the need of the size, you probably heard of the old research method of the Palm. Palm used to be a very old-fashioned display device, and the engineer and the chairman was developing that device. He made the cardboard size of a little bit bigger than a business card, and he wanted to have something that fits into the pocket. So that was the research, carrying it all the time. So it's that much of a mobile device having something to do with the portability. So Galaxy Tab 8-inch is a perfect size between the smartphone and the full-size iPad. Samsung came up first because of they understood the need of the size. In the meantime, advanced design is more complicated. A company like Samsung, it's not easy to do. They used to do the fast following, not really creating something new of their own. So understanding desire of people is not easy. Bordeaux TV was, in that sense, one of the innovations. Why? Because Bordeaux TV is the one they made Samsung TV brand #1 in the world. Before Bordeaux TV, TVs are basically rectangular shape, like picture frame paradigm. So what is the Bordeaux TV? As you can see, it's the shape of a wine glass. So it looks like resembling some of a experience that when you drink wine, there's flavor, texture, aroma, and all those reflection of light. So actually, they have used the double injection molding process. They invested tons of money to create clear edge, and by adding LED lights, sense of blue or red shins to the frame, which is totally a new approach. So rather than making a TV frame as Sony's, Panasonic's, Philips, other brands, they invented based on the needs, which is based on desire of how TV should be. So why is that the TV should look good when it's off? You know what? If you measure in your TV at home, how many hours do you watch your TV while it's on? Probably less than when it's off. So TV is there, you're watching it, but it's not turned on. So TV by itself, when it's not on, should look good rather than just having a basic shape. So that's kind of, I want my TV to look good and while fitting to my living room or bedroom. So it's designing other than the inside, but outside itself. This is a refrigerator, but not the refrigerator you think of. It's a kimchi. Do you know kimchi? Korean. It's a kimchi refrigerator. That's like huge. So it's hard to imagine why would you want to have such a huge size product for kimchi? But there's a need, there's a desire for Korean housewives, household. They want to have and maintain the perfect quality of kimchi throughout the year. So this kind of understanding desire and meeting this kimchi refrigerator became a huge success. Galaxy Note. So Apple doesn't make one. What's the difference? It comes with a pen, stylus. Well, that's a basic analog process, right? Rather than when you have a keyboard, why would you want to have a pen? Which is also very much a need of people wanting to write with their hands. And it becomes like a magic wand. So it's more than just a tablet. It's more than just a smartphone. It's something you can interact besides your fingers, something natural that you have learned from when you're being educated when you're kids, like holding a pencil. So that kind of desire was fulfilled with this Galaxy Note with pretty big screen size. It became a huge success. This is UHD TV. Looking at this image, it looks tiny, but it's huge. And it looks like frame is around a screen. And I can explain later what this is. But mainly, this became a concept of how TV should look in the future. And the future is here. Samsung made one. Just look at this image of the Galaxy S4 and having a cover, which has a window. It's just not a glass. It's just a void, just empty. So when you close it, you can still see the part of the screen. So it's like hidden window, but it's such an easy, simple solution. Rather than just having a cover, you can still peek inside. This is the UHD TV. Isn't it one of the most beautiful things? I'm not talking about the woman or the chair on the left. I'm talking about the TV, the screen, and the frame. This came out of the need and desire to have a beautiful, full-size, huge screens. And one of the innovations there is the frame. Frame is not only the device hold the screen in place because of the size and weight, but also it has speakers inside. So since the TVs became so thin, there's no space for speakers. So if you have a beautiful picture, but poor quality sound, that's not good at all. So how do you create a full-size speaker within a very thin screen? They put the speakers outside and hidden into the frames. So it looks like you have the perfect visual images, and also have perfect sound coming out from all the way around the frame. Just imagine details of this design, vacuum cleaner. Samsung's not that profitable in terms of vacuum cleaners. They make tons of money in other semiconductors, TVs, mobile phones, but not in home appliances. But I think it will change with this kind of design coming out. This is called motion sink design. What is it? They have defined what vacuum cleaner's problem is. The largest complaint of a vacuum cleaner is it's heavy. It doesn't follow you around. It takes a lot of energy to pull. So they've created this weird design which kind of sense your movement. It's kind of knowing that where you are going to, and it follows, and it's named motion sink. It's like following your motion, and it's sinking. So it's such a feather-like movement. So that's one of the most important features, rather than just cleaning power, but how easy to handle vacuum cleaner is one of the most important. So Samsung can make this kind of detailed usability with design sense, which visually fantastic. How can it not be successful? To summarize, this kind of Samsung's design approach is with some goals in terms of styling and aesthetics. If you look at the horizontal region versus emotion and complexity versus simple design, in the past 60s, they make very complex but reasonable and logical designs. In the 80s, they make very emotional, powerful, feature-driven products, which is very good. However, it doesn't look that good. It's a lot of jazzed up decorations. So now they've defined their goal to be simple and somewhere in between. Not too emotional, not too logical and boring. So this is their design target for the 2001. A bit of simplicity with the balance between emotion and reason. To summarize the process, this is kind of process that Samsung used, and it is combination of seed-based approach to the need-based approach, and it has to involve a lot of efforts and a lot of talent, especially creativity, some marketing sensibility and logic, and a lot of research skills, and being able to be visually creative. And also presentation is very important within a corporation, because not like US or European companies, Samsung has their own in-house designers. Unless you convince your CEOs, managers, your boss, your design is not going to be taking off. So they also have to be able to present their concept, their design, and communicate. And most of all, over design process and managing. Because imagine, I said that there are 1,000 designers, but there are more than 1,000 products. Every year they have to create. So unless they can manage the time and do the creative things, and then do the presentation and have it made, the whole things is almost like chaotic. But the size of Samsung probably is expected. I think all this goes back to understanding of how design plays in the process of the product development. Ulrich and Eppinger has defined it from the planning, concept development, system level design, detail design, and production ramp-up as a typical process. In the past, like Philip Kotler has said that we are living in the world of marketing 3.0. Marketing 1.0 is like manufacturing technology. So at that time, designers were involved at the towards end of the concept development. It's technology-driven, engineers has defined everything, or designer has to do is decorate. Marketing 2.0 is understanding customer, marketing-driven, needs-based. Still, designers get only involved after all the planning is done, and beginning of the concept development, which is not good, which is good enough at that time, but not good enough nowadays. So what's going on nowadays? We are living in a world of marketing 3.0, which is design-driven. Design is the center of the focus of product development. Now, when they're having meetings, we call that cross-functional team. We have designers being the center. There are marketers coming over. There are engineers participating. They cross in terms of functions. Marketers talk about design. Engineers talk about market. Designers talk about other things or everything. So it's like functions are crossing and it's synerging, creating synergies, looking at it from the other point of view. So nowadays, design-driven process is at the beginning. They do planning with designers being in the center, which is important because market has changed. There are a couple of different ways defined by Verizon. There's always discontinuity you need to make, either market commercial discontinuity or technological discontinuity. Some products can be commercially discontinuous because this will totally replace the market with this product. Or because you have the technology, you totally replace the technology. And I'm talking about this example because of pure size and the paradigm of design language with the UHD technology it offers. But what's the Samsung to do to be like Apple? Apple has a vision, well, at least had a vision. Samsung needs to create a vision. So what's the vision in design? Someone has defined vision as a North Star. If you have a North Star, you know where to go, how to follow. All you have to do is follow the star. Samsung didn't have that North Star in design. They didn't have a vision. So now they have to create their own. So that's the challenge, how Samsung will create their own vision of their own North Star in design for the future. It's been realized that in 1993, Chairman Lee has announced, it's called the Frankfurt Manifesto. He said, Samsung executives must change everything except your wife and kids. It's kind of funny. It's a very man-oriented company, as you can see. By the way, things are changing in Samsung. Before, there were no women executives in Samsung. Nowadays, they're trying to have more and more women as the managers. So it's changed. But back in 1993, it's like Chairman Lee talking to men executives. Change everything except your wife and kids. That means challenge everything. So how to make Samsung special? And how to challenge everything? And how to work towards a new standard of design. This is shocking. Chairman Lee, born as a son of a Byung-Chul Lee, who started the Samsung back in 1969 as a trading company, mainly. Chairman Lee, being educated in management, pretty much, like professional manager, became. No understanding of design. However, yet, in 1993, in Frankfurt, talking to executives how Samsung needs to be special and how they should challenge everything. Yet, he said, new standard of design. So that changed everything for Samsung design from that point. Actually, that's the timing the Saudi, where I work, got started as a school. There's a design education program called IDS, got started around that time. Whole bunch of effort in design, focusing on design as a resource to bring the change, to make Samsung special, got started at that time. Just one word from change everything except your wife and kids. that studied, one sentence studied the motivation. So what is the Samsung's design foresight? I call it Samsung design frontierism. It's like business is war, right? Like war frontier. So how to get to the future first by design? There are 3 approaches. I have done this over 2 years of research for my thesis, actually. And I've studied Samsung and also LG and studied their process, their understanding of how to make successful design. There's 3 elements, like design research, and there's process, and there's CEO. There are important factors. Design research being strategy, method, and knowledge. Process meaning teamwork, diversification, work process. CEO-driven means decision-making and management initiatives. They are important, and let me explain just one by one. Design research is so important that because as much as you put into research, you get the result. You might not think so, but the money invested in design takes tenfold better than investment in engineering or marketing. I'm not saying that it's based on the actual study. So if you research in design, you'll be profitable if you can use and search for new ideas. That also means a lot of investment. I already said that there are 1,000 designers. Can you imagine? 1,000 designers in one building working together. It's a huge number of designers. And it's not just designers. Samsung employs people with anthropology, psychology, aeronautics. Imagine all those weird kind of majors they hire as a designer, as a researcher, and they work in a design team. So it's not just a pure number, but qualities and diversified background of students and the graduates doing the research. And they also have an engineering and technology research lab hiring hundreds of people. So I work with many of the projects with those engineers. They come to design. They seek design solutions. And they are constantly developing new technologies and ideas. Also, the process was key in creating design solutions. How to create teamwork. So I mentioned cross-functional team. It's not just designers. It's engineering, marketing, managers. They all work together. And also different background. In Samsung, it's not just product design. There's communication design. There's a color design. There's audio-visual designs. There are designers like information design. Nowadays, UX designs, user experience designs. There's no major called UX design, but there are people like HCIs and some communications background or the website development. They put together called user experience, and they become experts. But they also bring in other designers like product designers and communication designers. So collaboration among different types of design teams is a key. So their area of expertise are all varied. As many different diversified expertise come together, it works better. Then they have to work it better because it's the process they emphasize. And ways of working. If you go to Samsung Design Center, 1,000 designers working in a huge building. If you look at their working environment, it's like nothing, all open space. They're just desks. So you can walk by anyone you like, you can talk to them. And it's like very open-ended, open environment for the communications. Sometimes it's a lot of stress, but when you have a question, you can always ask the guy around you. But most of all, what makes the most important difference is CEO-driven. Well, of course, because CEOs make decisions, right? But how many companies' CEO has the understanding of design as an important factor. Recently, I worked for, designed the product, did a project for a medium-sized company in Korea, pretty famous in making juicer machines. I talked to the CEO. He had no concept of design. He was an inventor. He was an engineer. He refused every aspect of the advice I offered, my team offered, except some new concepts for device design. So I was wondering, why would he hire us if he doesn't listen? Well, I guess he understood that design is important. That's the trend. Everybody says you got to design. But then CEO didn't have the right mind. Well, I know design is important, but I think engineering is more important. So eventually, the project was really not going anywhere. Samsung CEOs, I'm not just talking about CEO, the president or vice president, but whoever in charge of the decision making, they have to respect for design. There are many incidents, and it's almost like phenomenon or like legend. Back in like 20 years ago, when they were making TVs, the design team proposed a TV screen design with thickness, which is a little bit thinner than what engineer was able to produce, and they made a prototype. And the chair, CEO of the division, asked, "So is that the design you proposed?" And designer said, "Well, this is like 2 millimeters thicker than we proposed because they said they could make." You know what? The CEO put, well, believe it or not, there's an axe on the room, which is to prevent fire. Maybe he is prepared. He brought the axe and he destroyed the TV prototype and said, "Go back and make what designer has requested." So it became a legend, and now later he became in charge of the whole division. So he has determined the mind, saying that if that's what designer says, make the way as he wanted or they wanted. There's another incident. They actually had tons of mobile phones, like hundreds, thousands, and they set it on fire. Ordered from CEO. Why? Because they said it has poor quality, bad design. So we're not going to let these poor products into the market, wasting tons of money. However, that's how determined CEOs are for Samsung. Now that has spread, those legends and those stories, design first, and followed by engineering, which is not easy to understand for many of the companies, but Samsung is doing that. And they use design, creativity as a tool for success. So they have kind of taste of what design can do. They know. So unless CEO can make decision that design is important, unless CEO can drive design as the factor for success, it's not going to happen. So Samsung design frontierism, CEO-driven with design in mind is very important. So that also creates new values for the future. And they are not fast followers anymore. They have to be the first movers. So they are driving design to be the first mover factor. And to do that, they are constantly seeking for the best people in the world. Not just designers, but engineers, marketers, but especially designers. And they give very hefty salaries and special promotions. They are in search of all around the world. Actually, if you, like Chris Bangert, he works for Samsung, runs designs. Now Tokusawa, Jasper Morrison, if you name well-known designers, they are the master designer of Samsung, working outside, free of all the limitations of Samsung bureaucratic holders. They can design, and Samsung bring in, they work together. So they use the best people in the world, as a result, and that's driven by CEO. However, all those efforts are still facing a lot of changes in the environment. Chairman Lin has ordered to employ creative management, which is it's a new word. It comes from design. So design kind of method of running and managing is important. He also said about sandwich theory, which is like Korea is stuck in the middle. Japan is ahead, like a couple years of technology. China is following so fast that Korea is stuck in between. And it also translates into the crisis management. That's the keyword for Samsung's. And also they want to do the first mover innovations, which is now they have to have their own North Star. So to do all that, just look at this. Which one is Apple and which one is Samsung? Apple has 4 models. Samsung offers well over 100 models. Is it profitable? How to manage all these products? Tons of products, but Apple makes more money in profit in smartphones. Now it's changing. A couple of years ago. How to increase return on investment? I mean, Samsung is good at offering all the possible solutions for all the possible needs, but still has to make money to reinvest, to do the R&D, to return to the community. So these are challenges for Samsung. Still a long way to go. To summarize, back in 2008, CEO has sent a message to the 88,000 people in the world working for Samsung Electronics. Strong will and passion may have been enough to become a world-class company. He's talking about the past or right now, because that's the drive, the willpower and passion. But he said, becoming a world premier company calls for a change in our values. That's where the value comes from, and the way we think and work. So this is like setting a new North Star. Samsung is not just another world-class global company. They want to be the world premier, the best company in the world. And to do that, again, change in our values, like setting new goals, new values, and the way we think and work. And with this message, Samsung is working day and night with design in mind for the better achievement than ever. So to summarize, there are 2 keywords in Samsung's strategy: speed and change. They have to move fast, and they have to change and innovate all the time. And that's how Samsung has come to this point today. Thank you.